Criminals try to outsmart cops with deception, resistance, and unexpected twists, but it usually doesn't end well for them. Let's see what happens when dumb criminals try to outsmart the cops, starting with this guy. On April 6, 2022, a police officer had a run-in that would turn a regular day into something out of a movie. It all began when an officer spotted a car cruising down the street without license plates. But this wasn't your everyday traffic violation. The car had a flashy dealer plate instead of the usual temporary tag. Dealer plates are usually for dealership staff, not for your average Joe. The officer, a laid-back sort of guy, couldn't help but wonder why this driver had one.
Did they give you that plate, or
Yeah.
why'd they give it to you?
They gave me 45 days.
So instead of giving you a temp tag, they gave you that?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to do that.
The driver, at first glance, seemed innocent enough. He explained he was on his way to pick up his wife from the airport and tried to shoot the breeze with the officer to avoid any suspicion. Little did the officer know, beneath this seemingly routine traffic stop, a tale of deception was about to unfold. The officer checked the driver's info and found out he had 2 warrants. It wasn't a big deal, but the officer decided to be cautious and took the keys, just in case the guy tried to make a break for it.
Do me a favor, turn your car off real quick. And hand me the keys. Yeah, hand me the keys. Just hand me. Okay. This is in lieu of you going into handcuffs. You got 2 warrants.
The officer's curiosity about those dealer plates lingered, so he made a call to the dealership, hoping for some clarity. What he learned was far from expected. The dealership dropped a bombshell. The car was reported stolen. Suddenly, this routine traffic stop became a high-stakes situation. The officer wasted no time, instructing the driver to step out of the vehicle.
Don't do anything funny and step out of the car. Now, step out of the car.
What's wrong?
Step out of the car.
When the driver got out, he tried to run and put up a fight. The situation escalated, prompting the backup officer to pull out a taser. Faced with this quick response, the driver's resistance crumbled and he reluctantly cooperated. In all the commotion, the driver seemed really puzzled about getting caught and strongly said he didn't steal the car. But when the cops looked through his stuff, they found more keys, probably for another stolen car he had. In his attempt to outsmart the police, the driver almost succeeded, but luck wasn't on his side that day. The legal consequences swiftly caught up with him as he found himself charged with receiving stolen property, RSP, and resisting an officer. The officer's day went from mundane to memorable, proving that sometimes even the simplest encounters can take unexpected turns. Something like that happens in the next case as well. On February 14, 2022, the police had a not-so-ordinary encounter. They pulled over a vehicle that had just left a house known for dealing drugs. The officer, doing his job, asked the driver for their license and insurance. The driver had the license but didn't have insurance for the truck. The driver tried to talk his way out of trouble, but the cops weren't in the mood for excuses.
So it's insured. I promise you're gonna run. It's gonna run good.
Okay, I need a valid card.
Both the driver and the passenger seemed a bit nervous, like they had something to hide. The officer told them to step out of the truck, but they hesitated, especially the passenger. Once out, the officer caught a whiff of something suspicious, the strong smell of weed. To be sure, they brought in a K9 dog. The dog signaled that there might be drugs in the car, so the officers started searching. In the left door of the car, they found a black bag with drugs. This led to the arrest of both the driver and the passenger, with the officer making sure to read the driver his Miranda rights.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him or her present with you.
As they questioned the driver, something weird happened. He started to pass out. The officers got worried, thinking he might have swallowed something. The officer turned to the passenger and began questioning her after reading her the Miranda rights. The officer wanted to know if she knew what was really going on.
How long have you been with Brad?
Just a couple, but 2 months.
Are you aware that he's a drug dealer?
I've heard.
She said she didn't know anything, and the driver dropped her at Papa John's to get a pizza, then he went around the corner. The driver was charged with stealing a vehicle and trafficking amphetamines. Do you think the driver genuinely passed out? Or was he just playing a game to outsmart the cops? Let's see if the next guy was successful in outsmarting the cops. On January 2, 2023, a peculiar incident unfolded at the airport, and a man named Eric was at the center of it all. He was causing a ruckus at the service counter, creating a scene after the airline manager denied him boarding. The situation escalated to the point where the police had to be called in.
You don't have a ticket.
I do have a ticket.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. It's in my pocket.
They're not rebooking you.
But Eric wasn't in the mood to cooperate. Little did everyone know, there was more to Eric than meets the eye, and the unfolding events would reveal just that. The officer on the scene requested Eric's ID, a simple request met with defiance. Eric not only refused but also turned a deaf ear to the manager, who tried to explain that his ticket was no longer valid. To add another layer to the situation, the officer noticed the smell of alcohol on Eric. After a while, a supervisor joined the scene, offering Eric a final chance to leave peacefully. However, instead of taking this opportunity, Eric responded with threats, warning that they would lose their jobs if they dared to arrest him.
For criminal trespass, what do you
Y'all
want to do?
touch me or arrest me, y'all are all gonna lose your jobs. I promise you.
As the officers attempted to apprehend him, Eric put up a fierce resistance, earning himself a resisting arrest charge. Once detained, the officers escorted him to the police car. While searching through Eric's belongings, the officers uncovered a treasure trove of unexpected items, multiple IDs not belonging to him, 3.6 grams of methamphetamine, several used needles, 6 laptops, 5 cell phones, $1,905 in cash, checks from different accounts, and notebooks containing account information from various individuals. The officers, naturally, had many questions. During the journey to the police station, Eric's behavior took a turn for the worse. He began screaming in the back of the car, and when the officer checked on him, he was having seizures.
So did you take any drugs today?
In response, emergency treatment was administered to address the sudden health crisis. In the end, Eric faced a string of charges, including criminal trespass, resisting arrest, and fraud. The next case is a little bit unsettling, so buckle up. On January 17, 2022, the police got a call about a car crash. A guy named James Armstrong was involved, and instead of staying put, he decided to run away, making things more complicated. After a bit of searching, the police found Armstrong still driving nearby. They went up to him to figure out what happened, but Armstrong seemed a bit strange, and you'll understand why in a minute. Armstrong's car got hit from behind by another driver. He had nothing to worry about because it was the other driver's fault for rear-ending him. After a short chat with the officer, Armstrong tried to leave, but the officer stopped him. Why? Because the investigation was not finished.
So I'm trying to make amends with that, but then I have the other agency that's involved, FHP.
And another agency, the Florida Highway Patrol, FHP, needed to check things out too. When the FHP people arrived, Armstrong did something really unexpected. It shocked everyone at the scene.
He's got his hand on a knife.
Back away for a second.
Hey man, drop the knife! Drop the knife right now!
The officers kept telling him to step out of the car, but he wouldn't budge. No matter how many times they asked him, Armstrong stayed put. The officers had to come up with a different plan to get him out of the car.
Roll over, on your stomach! On your stomach! Hands on your back!
Eventually, they had to arrest him. Armstrong ended up charged with battery on an officer, hit and run, and resisting arrest. What started as a simple response to a car crash turned into a puzzling encounter with James Armstrong, full of unexpected twists and serious legal consequences. The next guy we are about to talk about had a similar mindset to that of James Armstrong. On May 30, 2021, things got complicated when a concerned neighbor told the authorities that William Mitchell had shot an airsoft gun at a neighbor's car, causing damage, and had even threatened other neighbors with a knife. When the officers arrived, they sensed the situation could be tricky and potentially dangerous. They asked Mitchell to come out of his house, but he barricaded the door, making things more difficult.
Mr. Mitchell, if you don't come to the door, we're coming through the door.
Despite repeated requests, Mitchell refused to cooperate. The officers had no choice but to break down the door. Once inside, they found that he was hiding somewhere. They asked him to come out, but he wouldn't respond or budge. To make matters more serious, the police brought in a canine dog to help apprehend Mitchell. He fought back, and there was a struggle with the dog. Eventually, the police managed to catch him and take him out of the house. When the officer questioned him about why he wouldn't come out, Mitchell said he was sleeping.
You're being placed under arrest. For what? Multiple things.
Which seems a bit funny considering the circumstances. The officers searched him and provided medical assistance because the dog had bitten him during the struggle. Talking to the neighbor shed more light on the situation. The neighbor mentioned that Mitchell had a history of mental health issues, and this wasn't the first time he had done something like this.
Man, he's got a couple houses down. The woman's, her husband, I guess, talks to him often, and she told, I think it was the sergeant yesterday, that he has mental health issues.
Whenever the police came to talk to him, he would hide inside the house. As a result of this incident, William Mitchell was charged with resisting an officer and aggravated battery. His bail was set at $8,000. If you enjoy the content, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel.